Hi, welcome to Service Binding Operator Weekly Call. Today we have a couple of items in the agenda. So let's start with the announcement.
All right, so release 010 is out on the Operator Hub. I crafted today also release notes for the GitHub. Upload also release.yaml file so that people can actually also install Operator without using OLM. Also just got noted just shortly before this meeting that the version was published on the Red Hat catalog as well. So we are available on both channels, Red Hat catalog, Operator Hub, and we have a standalone release.yaml file, which can be used for applying against the cluster installing the operator. Yeah, so that's basically looking forward to the feedback of the customers and users.
Okay, good. I can see for the other agenda you invited that person who reported, right?
Well,
David
I
Parker.
said that we will discuss this, so like I thought maybe if David, I think David Parker is the name. So if he had the time, so to join, that would be nice. But otherwise, even without that, so we can have internal discussions for that. So and to understand, so what will be kind of things we would like to propose. So, Bashir, would you mind to share the screen so that?
Yeah, sure. I can share and show the ticket, right?
Yeah, that link.
So okay, issue 2001. I can see he has put a lot of thoughts into this problem, and
But the very last comment is the most interesting, actually. So
this entire one that has all the slides in it.
yeah. So the gist of the issue is that we in 0.9 we dropped the support for binding when the application was specified. So we had that functionality until the 0.8, and then we, based on some internal discussions, we decided, and also with the, since we wanted to be more aligned with the spec API, where this kind of functionality doesn't exist at all as well. So we decided to drop that functionality. So what was the kind of how did this work before? So you could specify service binding just referring services and without application. As a result of that, reconciliation would create intermediate binding secrets, and that will be it. So that kind of secret name will be referred into the binding itself, and then the process will stop that as successful. Some people find it useful to just get a secret, and then they were kind of starting from that moment and consuming those secrets in their own way. And we turned it off, so this doesn't exist anymore. And this is David gave quite a really detailed explanation so how they actually use service binding operator in their settings. So I would like to kind of discuss that kind of issue here with the group, so that we can actually decide so how we gonna answer to him and maybe help them to solve their issue. I'm not convinced that we would need to return that functionality. Honestly, I don't. So one of the comments here is that they don't want that our operator actually modifies their resources. And to be fair, that kind of behavior is constantly present in the Kubernetes. So like a resource can be touched by many operators, different operators, like taking care just of appropriate parts of some resources. So that's a quite normal thing in the Kubernetes world. So I'm not sure how strict we need to be about that. But at the other side, so if they really don't want that the service binding operator touches individual microservices, or maybe those microservices are not really are able to consume intermediate secret directly, what I would like to propose them, and kind of they also propose it at the bottom, on the bottom of the comment, I would propose them that they represent or model their like complex application with some custom resource which describe that workload, and then service binding operator can inject reference to the secret in that custom workload. At the same time, their operators can watch on changes for that workload, and that will be then the signal for them, okay, that the binding was successful, and then they can pick that secret and do whatever they want with the secret later on.
Are you suggesting something like that, the mapping functionality? I mean, in the spec, we have something called that application resource mapping, right? That somewhere we are going to, like an intermediate location, we are going to project these values, and from there they can take it up like that.
Yeah, but that's
I
the
hope,
kind of thing what I'm proposing.
yeah, right. The same thing. Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Let me quickly take that. Yeah, there is a work in progress PR right now.
Oh, I mean, there is this on the spec side. There is this kind of ongoing effort with the resource mapping, but in our API we still have a possibility to inject secret reference in a custom location in a given application resource, and that could be used as well.
Yeah, that's there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yes. So that can be used with the current API itself, and in future, once we implement this kind of features, they can use this as an alternative. Yeah, then I guess that could be a good response, right?
Would anybody like thinking about adding back that kind of functionality where you can simply drop or not specify the application? Would it make sense?
I don't see that's really necessary right now, but for the old spec, that API, I'm okay. I mean, not the spec, our old API, we could bring it back. There is no big problem, but once they have an alternative, like if they are okay to use this custom location for projecting, and if that's going to work for them, then I don't see any need to bring it back. On a long-term basis, they can evaluate this workload resource mapping feature, which is still work in progress, as a solution, right? This is something that spec is proposing, even though it is a bit complex, but that should work for them, I guess.
I'm just kind of thinking, even like in case when you have say provision services, right? Then we are not even creating any. Imagine that you have a service which is just provision service, and we are not creating any intermediate secret in that case. So we simply take that secret, name of that, and then just put it in the service binding as such. So I'm not sure then, like, how this would work for them or for anybody else, because they would need to watch in the service binding to see if the service binding changed to pick that secret and so on. I would prefer that we kind of, if that's a complex application, then this application should be modeled by some resource in the cluster. I mean, it would be beneficial for their side as well. And then say like even like you could treat it as a config of that application. It doesn't have to be anything particular, but then we can inject exactly what we need to inject into that resource, and that operator can watch for that resource and then take the actions.
Okay, you're suggesting like a new yet another CRD, which is going to be a provision
Like
service, right?
if you see in that second diagram, for example, what I'm seeing here is there's something which is called suite. No, not second, third. Sorry.
Third one, yeah.
There you have arrow, right? So
Yeah,
there's something binding is injected into suite. So I would assume that if they don't have a resource modeling that suite, they should have some kind of resource, and then the service binding can be injected. Well, the secret can be injected into that suite resource, and then from there, their operator can model things and so on.
But that still will require yet another resource from our side, right? Not our service binding.
Sorry, say again?
I mean, that means you're proposing to create another CRD, just only doing the reconciliation and then, creating a...
No, I'm proposing that they need to introduce on their side a new
Okay.
CRD.
But that means that should do all the work that is done by service binding, right? Like looking through the service, whatever the provision service, and maybe if they need annotation support, all those things should be part of that logic.
No, then they can create a service binding which says bind me some service to that suite, and so we're going to inject the secret reference into that suite.
Okay. Just like another resource, but that's going to be their place where they're going to look for the secret. Yeah, so that means they need to have yet another CRD from their end, and I mean they need to introduce one more custom resource, so we can inject into that one, and from there they can pick it up these values. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, okay, to me it's just a matter of introducing one more CR, and with that I guess with our proposed this workload resource mapping, it's going to work very well with that approach, right? Yeah, so it could be any arbitrary resource as long as it can fit into this rule that we are building up. Yeah, so maybe we can point to this I mean, we can mention the current possibility with our resource, I mean that custom injection, and then point to this workload resource mapping approach. So the only thing that they need to introduce yet another resource in their system. With that, yeah, I hope that's fine.
Okay, good. Thank you. So Andy.
Yes. Sorry, I wasn't entirely certain if there's any more to say on that issue. Before I start, I dropped halfway through last discussion because my internet apparently crapped out or something happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen this time, or during my stuff. If it does, I'll let you guys know. But one thing what I've been working on is investigating error handling in SPO. And what I found was there was a particular code path where if you had injected annotations with completely garbage values, say you set your element type to like ASDF or something that isn't valid, SBO would just happily chug along and perform your binding, which is wrong in my opinion. I think we need to throw an error. I think we need to basically have the binding not happen. And so where I'm at on that is I'm currently still in the process of writing appropriate tests for that, both integration and or acceptance tests and unit tests. But so far, I believe implementation is correct. It's just the testing part that I'm still working on.
I'm
is
still not very
this-
clear what kind of annotation that you saying here. I mean, garbage, and I'm a bit confused actually. Sorry. Can you maybe share your screen or demonstrate? I'm a bit lost.
Sure. Give me.
No, okay, maybe I'll stop sharing.
I can share a screen and walk you through some of the acceptance tests I've been writing.
Oh, this is a test issue or something like a cleanup?
So I've been using tests to replicate the issue. Because so far I found that's the most consistent way of exhibiting it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that
fine.
correct?
Yeah. But I'm still not clear whether this is an actual improvement for the test suite or is it like a issue in the underlying code or logic?
It's an issue in the underlying code. What should be happening is if SPO has, for example, an annotate, or say a service has an annotation that's completely wrong. Say it tells you it has an element type of, say, foo, when element type should be something more like secret or config map or something like that. SVO apparently just ignores it. I say apparently because that's the behavior so far that I've observed.
Okay, that means if that particular resource that is pointed out through the annotation is missing or non-access, I mean,
Yes,
not
if
existing,
that
then-
annotation
yeah.
is basically invalid.
Yeah. Okay, so we are skipping only that particular line of annotation and then move on to the next one and then address it, right? I mean, consider.
That is the current behavior. What I think should happen is we should fail and throw a warning and say we couldn't bind because you have invalid annotations in your service.
That moment. But okay, we need, my opinion, actually, this all should happen like a reconciliation. That means there should be a yet another retry mechanism to check whether it came up or not. Because in Kubernetes world, everything happens like a state change, right? So maybe
Yeah, but
it's
not in
there
this
at
case.
that moment. Maybe after a few seconds, it may come up, right?
No, but not in this case. So like one thing is that if the annotation is such is not syntactically correct.
Syntactically correct.
This means that annotation is on a service binding, and we're trying to reconcile it, and so you can try to reconcile it as much as time we want, and nothing will happen. So we can.
You're always going to get the same exact error.
So we can stop here immediately. Now, if a user, an informed user that things are not okay, now user can see, for example, that in the conditions that something is invalid, user can update the service binding, and then the reconciliation process will start again. So therefore, in this particular case, we can fully stop reconciliation and try again. Now, the other case is when, say, annotation is correct, but imagine that so we are referring in the annotation a key from a secret, and we can detect that key is during during reading the data, we can, for example, detect that this key is not there. Now we can maybe understand this as a transient issue, because imagine there is a secret, and at some next moment, secret will be updated and maybe contain that key. In that case, we could retry reconciliation, hoping that that key will be there. And eventually, reconciliation process will stop after a number of tries and some waiting. But we could retry there, hoping that this is really transient error. I mean, can we agree about that? Make sense?
Yeah, so there are two types of, one is more like a syntax error, or this kind of element
Yes.
type. So that our system must have a knowledge about that and then trigger error.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So far as I understand it, we handle things like syntax errors, like you have a malformed path correctly. It currently does not throw an error, however, when say, or to highlight a specific example, if you have this set, or if you have an element type set to something that's completely wrong.
Yeah, right. I got it. Yeah, we should catch that when throw error immediately. Yeah, I agree. And for any other things, we could do reconciliation over and over again.
Okay, so
Yes.
when you change down the logic, well, like you said, some tests are failing. So does it mean that in our code base we have acceptance tests which are, having those kind of invalids in?
So testing situation is a little weird because so yesterday I took some time to make sure all the acceptance tests were correct, and I think I have a testing issue because I was getting something completely unrelated failing, and when I went and checked out latest master, I could get the same failures, and so I don't think it's my problem, or I don't think it's a problem with my code, is what I'm trying to say. But so that until I can get that issue resolved, it's a little up in the air whether all the tests are correct or not.
Okay, but that's kind of easy to check. So once you feel okay, you can submit the PR, and then you're gonna get like the outcome there.
Yeah, I can just run it through CI. You're right.
Okay.
Uh,
Right. So
yes.
what's
The other path I need to investigate on this. Yes, we have element type. The other case type could potentially throw an error, but based off of my understanding of the code, is object type could also be completely wrong. And currently, I don't have tests for those.
okay, but not only object type, you can have also the path could be invalid JSON path, for example.
Yes, I think that's already been taken care of though. But based off of some of the other tests I've seen.
Okay, I mean, we need to kind of check and validate if we have, those kind of things. But I think
Yes.
all the possible, say, parts of the notation, which could be wrong, we should have at least one testing only.
Yes. Yes. Would you prefer some kind of acceptance test for this, or could we get away with just unit tests?
User-facing stuff. This is user-facing. So it will be important, for example, if say element type is wrong, that we simply in the message we're getting back to users through condition that we say, you know what, element type is wrong. It can be this, that, or we could even like improve the message saying it could be the allowed values are X, Y, and Z. Same goes for what you said, like object type, right? And what else we have there, like source keys, source values, and what's not. So
those I believe are also validated correctly. For the record. But yes, you're probably right. Yes, this is a user facing change, so we should have acceptance tests for those. Is there anything else to discuss on this front?
No, I think that's all in our agenda. I don't have anything else. We have a call coming up after a few hours. And after this call, Andy, I want some of your time to spend with that. So with the debugging also, I have some question regarding that. After recent changes for me, that function test is not working. So I remember Fred has helped me to set up that one, right? Running test in the Minikube.
Yes, I'm currently testing a Minikube.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
need
I mentioned
time,
yesterday to Baju that we had a session where kind of we worked together to show you how to run acceptance test against the Minikube nowadays. And so if you can share that knowledge with the Baju, that would be really helpful for him.
Yes. I've been meaning to write a script to automate it. I just haven't had the time to do that yet. Just because
you can catch like after this call and
just to show after this call.
Yeah, it's very much tribal knowledge, and I think it should be written down somewhere.
Okay. Before we go, I would like that we just size quickly two issues which are planned for the GA, just so we can understand. So what is the effort? I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Just give me a sec. So there are like two things. One is we would like to sync once again with the spec API, and the other thing is about dropping support for the mount path.
I don't think we need to do it before GA, in my opinion, because that could be just a document. Last one that drop support for.
Okay, we could decide about that if we don't have the time, but let's just size it that we know what is the effort, right? Okay. Yeah. So about the spec API, so group. So the work there is simply we need to take the latest Go types which are generated and copy to our repo right now, and then based on that to understand if there are some other changes we need to perform in our code. So what's definitely changing the group API name, it doesn't really have any particular impact on the rest of the code. But what I have seen, what was changed recently is also application field was renamed to the workload. So this has some implications on the Go code, so on the places where we kind of use application. But also there is a big implication on the acceptance tests. The specification acceptance tests. But again, there is more about search and replace.
But we are not going to change the old API, right? Current API, we are going to retain application, not workload.
Where? In our API?
Yeah, our API.
I'm speaking about the specification API here.
Yeah, got it. But yeah, the task is about that one. But I assume that we had a, strategy to ask, as much as possible to sync with the API specification. So as part of that effort, do we need to make there also as a workload?
I wouldn't do it here because this is going to break again. Everybody, and this is about getting us to the
Mm.
compliance, again, to compliance with the latest spec API. So that kind of ticket might follow, but right in this particular ticket, I wouldn't touch our API. It's solely about syncing with the spec API.
Yeah, okay. And one more quick question. So you don't need to do any migration, right? We are just going to change, but we are not going to do any
No.
existing. Yeah.
No.
Okay, then I think it is pretty straightforward. Mostly
So
search and replace, and then
So what do you think? Like, so we can actually have here some labels about the sizing. So from what what do we have? Like a side, yeah. So I would say this is pretty like a small. I mean, I would not say small, but a medium size issue.
yeah, I think medium only, right?
And
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of migration that needs to be done. It's just we change the API namespace, right? And
All the test cases we need
and
to
the acceptance tests, which
Right.
are using the spec API, we need to change the service binding resource, the group there. We need to, but that's really
Okay.
literally search and replace in the editor. So it's not a big deal. And then again, the API, in the API, they got renamed like application field to the workload. So we also need to do this kind of search and replace there. But that's basically everything what we need to do. So it's I would say it's an effort of say half, well, the most half of the week, if not less.
I know that you are using what was that ID? Does that ID provide some kind of a refactoring mechanism? I just wonder which does automatically replace everywhere attribute.
Well, it's just an editor thing, search and replace, I would say. So
Okay, no, there are some language aware mechanisms, right? Sometimes.
I'm not aware.
if you're thinking of like Gopals, I think it can do that.
No, in Java, I see people who just rename and it goes through all the dependent places and change it.
Well, we can
Yes.
definitely do that for the Go code. We can definitely do that for the Go code, but for the rest of the thing, well, for the YAML files or for the Cucumber files, I don't think we can do that. Well, in any fancy way. So it's goes down to your editor skill, search and replace and regular expressions.
Well, is awk fancy?
What?
You could probably just write and this is probably, no, you could probably just write a very hacky awk script to just go like, or a sed script to just go find and replace.
Yeah, you can do that, right? You can do that.
Okay, yeah,
but
it's okay.
In any way, whatever tool we use, I would say that the effort is about half of the week to bring this to the to the merging state. So therefore, I would suggest that I would say it's a medium size, or like
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not imagining it's going to take a whole lot of time to do the actual changes. It's just the testing that's going to take a little while.
But even if we see, for example, some tests failing, we know immediately why, and we're gonna simply then go and fix them, like in a way replace stuff. This is going to work.
Yes, I would agree with Medium on this.
Okay. Okay, good. Apart from, and the next thing is about dropping some functionality we had. So basically, we have that mount path field. We would like to remove it, and with that, remove all the usage of that throughout the code. The usage is very.
I feel like
very
this is going to be a bit more invasive.
Yeah, but we don't need to do it right before G, in my opinion, because I mean, at least not necessary, because this is mostly we can handle it in documentation for now, which we did already. but API change itself, we could do it maybe post GA also.
But the problem is that we could of course do it after GA, but it will be better to do it before, because if we do it like after GA, then first of all, it will be nearly impossible because we should not break APIs, and this is like clearly breaking an API. So we should give people support. So if we can do it before GA, that would be better. I would say.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
adding things on the API is something which is tolerable in a GA mode, but like removing stuff, meaning like potentially breaking somebody, it's not something we should do without any very good reason.
I think the time to do this is before 1.0.
Yeah.
I pre-GA. So I think if you wanted to do this change, this is a very opportune time to make that change.
Yeah.
Can we do
No.
it like maybe part by part, like maybe only remove it from the API, but let the reconcile logic, let it be there for now. We can take it later. It's not do reconciliation because that attribute is API is not there.
I mean, yeah, but again, I'm not thinking
Otherwise,
that
if it's not getting much time, then okay.
Okay, but so let's speak about what is the effort here. So from what I'm seeing, so we need to remove that field, and then to see by removing that field where we're gonna break the code. The usage of that field is very focused on in the context implementation. There is a function which returns that binding path, and for example, in our API, we have that mount path field. On the spec API, there is no such field at all, and we can practically reuse the very same implementation we have in the spec API, and then we're good. And the only more thing we need to do is simply to remove acceptance tests where when we demonstrate and test the usage of mount path, and that will be it.
Yeah, right.
I think this would be a bit more of an invasive change than the last issue. This would probably take a little bit longer to do, probably something closer to a week, maybe not longer.
Yeah, might be.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting we can do this like a two-part. Let's remove this from the API, but let the reconcile logic let be there for now. That we can remove later. Right?
But yeah, okay, but even if we
going to-
remove that field from the API, we still need to remove the tests. So the only thing which is now,
yeah.
I mean, we could, of course, keep that logic in the reconciler, and it will be practically disabled. But the test needs to be removed as well. I mean, there are not too many
Yeah,
tests.
that's true. If we don't,
there are just a
we
few of
need to
them.
change the test all anyway.
So removing stuff is always way easier than crafting and adding. So I could agree with Andy that might be a bit more. So like maybe not like you said a week, but that will be it.
Okay.
It's
So-
certainly larger than the last issue.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's
related to last
go
one,
with
it is.
Al then.
Large seems fairly reasonable on this front, so yeah.
Okay. That's good. Okay, and this is what I had, at least from my side for today. Any other topics for today's call?
I have nothing.
No, nothing from my side.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. See you around.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks.